Okay. And then, yeah, last night, Mishal tested, because we do the studio thing with Android Faithful as well, and he tested restreaming out to his X account, and it worked fine. So
Okay,
I think
good.
it was
All
just
right.
a
So I'm
weird
going to do it right
streaming
now.
thing.
Save changes. Live streaming does not currently support. Let's see.
Really?
But, well, no, but it's so far. Let's look. Is it on Twitter?
Yeah, and I'm also getting clicky audio from you. StreamYard was doing weird clicky things. Yeah, okay, I'm seeing it broadcasting on your X account.
Okay, good.
It is
check
broadcasting. What I'm curious about, what I'm concerned about, is that I was just hearing some big time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Yeah. Well, plug the focus rate.
Yeah, unplug that and replug that in and see if that helps it. And I'm just so you know, I'm not hearing you. I think it's muted because it's not set up for your audio after you. Yeah, oh, okay. That's right. You couldn't hear me either. Hey, Joe T. How's it going, sir? Welcome. Thank you. Joe, if you do me a favor, let me know if my audio is crackling or kind of broken up. Last night on Android Faithful, everything seemed okay. And then when I sat down to edit the files, number one, StreamYard took forever to give me the files. I was up until like 11 last night working on it. And then two, once I finally got the files, they were riddled with all sorts of like weird clickiness. And it wasn't just one person, it was everyone. So I'm wondering if StreamYard is just having issues. I'm seriously considering not doing StreamYard on the renewal and going with a different service, because you are pretty digital. What does that mean? Does that mean it's like clicking and strange and not ideal? Because if things aren't, no, I can't hear you. Garbled and robotic. Is StreamYard okay? So garbled and robotic. So everyone who's okay. Hello.
You hear me? 1, 2, 3.
I hear you.
You hear me now?
Sounded
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Joe T in our chat on YouTube was saying things were garbled and robotic. Now, Joe, were you saying that related to? Okay, so Chris says his audio's fine. Okay, good. Maybe Joe was just saying that he was also hearing
what my problem
garbliness coming from your audio. Audio sounds good to Tudo. Thank you, everybody, for
troubleshooting for us. Yeah.
Yeah, because last night on Android Faithful, there were a number of issues, and it has me. We're having regular issues now with StreamYard. It's not 100% as far as the audio quality is concerned, and so I'm seriously I'm actually coming close to when I would need to re-up, and I'm considering checking.
And what's the one that Twit's using externally? I mentioned before.
Are they? Which one are they using? Twit? Are they? They're not using Restream, right?
Yeah, Restream.
Is it Restream? Okay.
But they only use it for Twit out. We still call in on Zoom.
Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. Okay. So Restream.
Does Restream doesn't offer this functionality that StreamYard does?
I think it does.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, because we did it one week. Yeah, we did it one week, and it was good.
It has a whole studio. It has a whole switching studio and everything. Yeah. And annual pricing. This is multi-stream. So $10 a month. Oh my God, that's less than what I'd pay on StreamYard.
Really?
Okay, I'll have to look into that. Yeah.
I just look.
Yeah,
If
StreamYard
you,
just rejiggered all of their plans, and it basically took my current plan and doubled the price, which I thought was an interesting kind of opt-in
That's a-
thing. Like, don't worry, we got you covered. And then it was like $200 or $300 more per year, and I was like, wait a minute, whoa, I don't, you know. So, anyways,
I just
and
texted you a comparison of Restream and Restream's comparison of itself to StreamYard.
okay. Actually, I'm looking at the different plans, and I'd probably have the professional plan, and it's about the same cost. But I like what Twit's been doing. The quality looks great. So
And they're
I'll
on
go with that
8
one.
platforms, right? External.
Oh, just as standard. Okay.
Yeah, they're doing them all.
Yeah.
But they have more of an audience than I don't have any audience on Twitch, so
Sure. No, neither do I.
right.
I stream there every week, but it gets usually single digits, maybe double digits sometimes. But anyways, okay. Well, it sounds like our audio issues are cleared up, so I'm going to go ahead and
Okay,
remove this
good.
banner.
Thank you for those of you on the stream for being patient with us.
Yeah, for confirming on that. Appreciate
The show
that.
official.
Thank you
The show itself is about to begin.
Yeah, and thank you for kicking your system into gear, Jeff, because it made the difference. So that's good. Okay, everybody.
Are you streaming on LinkedIn?
I am streaming to LinkedIn. Yes.
Oh, good. I see it there. Oh, good. Yay. So now I can shut up myself.
Yeah, I pretty much what I'm doing now is LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. Those are the 3 places that I'm going.
Right. Now, how do I reshare this? I don't think I can. All right. Keep going. Sorry.
All right. Well, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let me make sure that my screenshot system is set up here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to remove you from the stage temporarily. I'm going to put up a graphic, and we are going to begin. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Sorry about the technical difficulties. And let's get into it. Here we go. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of AI Inside, the show where we take a look at the AI that is layered inside so many things each and every week. So many more layers added to the soup. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Howell, joined as always by author Jeff Jarvis. How you
Does soup have layers?
doing? Well, I mean, no, but so yes, I'm mixing metaphors.
I'm getting a metaphorical crisis here, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you layer things in there, but they don't stay layered for long, I guess.
Lasagna we know, Napoleons we know, layered salads we have. You could do a salad.
Sure, until it's no longer layered when you mix it up.
Parfaits.
Yeah.
It's an AI parfait.
There we go. Cool. I like it. Now I'm ready for dessert before I even had a chance to have some lunch. Hey, Jeff, I got your book.
Bless you,
I've
friend.
started it.
Bless you.
I'm excited. I've got a holiday next week. We're going out of town, which, by the way, programming note, we're going to have a pre-recorded episode of AI Inside next week, so there will be no live show because here in the U.S., we have the Thanksgiving holiday coming up. So I'm going to be gone for the week, but this is my reading companion for the week is your book, The Web We Weave. I'm
Oh,
excited.
God, I don't want to put you to sleep on vacation. Jeez.
I doubt that. I think I'll have plenty of opportunity to fall asleep without the help of your book. But I'm looking forward to it, so I'm happy to have that.
Thank you, sir.
And then to
Much
see
appreciated.
you in San Francisco a couple of weeks later. So
Yeah, December 4th. Hey, folks, I forgot that. Yes, December 4th, I am going to be at the Commonwealth Club. That's a Wednesday, talking about that book. And so, by all means, it's hard to fill the room. And it's embarrassing when it's not full. Last time it almost got canceled because of that. So I'd be really grateful if you sign up. If you're in San Francisco, please come. It'd be great to meet you. If you're not, it's also video, and that's great too. So thank you.
yeah, love it.
Early
I'm
plug
super
there.
excited. Yes, I'm so happy to realize that I could pull that off and go support you. So I will
Thank you.
absolutely be there. be there for you and with you. Before we get started, speaking of support, big thank you to those of you who support us on our Patreon, patreon.com/AI Inside Show. Meklit Adane is one of our earliest supporters. And Meklit, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. And if I did not, I apologize. But thank you for being there from the very beginning. Thank you to everyone who supports us. By the way, you can support us without giving any money. Of course, the money helps. But you'll find out later in the show why you do want to follow on the Patreon, because sometimes you get special things that you don't get outside of it, even if you're a free member of the Patreon. So patreon.com/AI Inside Show. Go there and you can get access to some of this stuff. And if you happen to be watching live, excellent. Thank you. It's great to have you here. YouTube.com/@TechSploder. Also, folks, joining up on X through Jeff's account. It's great to see you. But if you can't catch us live, I urge you to go to AIinside.show and subscribe to the podcast. All the ways to subscribe are listed there. That way, if you do miss us live, you still get to enjoy the show and you don't miss it entirely until the very next week. So AIinside.show. That's the housekeeping. Now let's talk about some drama. Drama in the world of AI.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
guess who is
opera.
the drama queen in the story we're about to do.
Yeah,
Easy guess.
Big surprise. This all has to do with the Elon Musk OpenAI lawsuit. And there are some newly released court documents in this lawsuit that are kind of making the rounds. And of course, it's dishy. People love to get that inside scoop on how this stuff goes down behind the scenes. And it shows some of the communications that have been released. They date between 2015 to 2018. And really kind of show a bit of the mood, a bit of the dynamics of that early development of the company, all the way through to Musk's departure. This is all, unearthed as a result of the lawsuit. And there's just a number of things that are, I guess, curious more than anything. I don't know if there's anything revolutionary or groundbreaking, but it really shows off the power struggle that was kind of happening inside, particularly in 2017. There were tensions over control of the company, with Greg Brockman and Ilya Sutskever really concerned about the concentration of power, the potential for what they call an AGI dictatorship. Internally, not just internally though, also from companies like Google. It really seems like they were very threatened by Google in this early stage, and like, oh my goodness, Google's going to run away with this if we don't.
Yeah, Musk made fun of him. There's 0% chance you're going to catch up to Google now. You've left behind. Google's way ahead. Google's winning. Because Google, let's not forget, created the foundational structure or technology in transformers that led them here. So
yeah, there from the very beginning. DeepMind, a big kind of concern, which don't hear a whole lot about DeepMind nowadays.
Well, through Google, I think we do. Yeah,
through Google, I suppose, but it's not making the regular kind of impact that it was back then, when it was when Google really was kind of leading in this regard. In 2017, also there was a lot about Sutskever and Brockman questioning Sam Altman's motivations, Altman's priorities, kind of uncertain whether AGI was his primary motivation, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. The relationship to Microsoft. Musk was very concerned that he didn't want to become Microsoft's marketing pawns. I think there were even worse words in this. Yeah, he said, and pardon me for what I'm about to say, he said, would be worth way more than $50 million not to seem like Microsoft's marketing bitch. Apologies, that's his word, not mine. And so that's interesting. The other thing that struck me, Jason, was the political angle of this. Musk is such a weird dude, where sometimes I think that he just does whatever comes into his head. Sometimes you think he has an evil master scheme, and it's hard to tell which it is, right? Because suddenly out of nowhere he'll say, I'm going to bore holes in the ground. And then he does it for a while. Then he says, oh, it doesn't work. Or he's going to create the Hyperloop because he wants to screw with California on its transportation structure. So
you really don't know. You really don't know with any of this stuff, because it always sounds so pie in the sky. And then he actually goes forward with it.
Some of them.
With mixed result, with mixed outcome. But Yeah, you never really know kind
Still
of
in the
what's
net.
driving
So
it.
what interested me here was, and given current politics, life has changed, and given his role in politics now,
Yeah, yeah, big time.
the notion of the political concern around AGI. Now, we all know, everybody who watches the show knows that I think AGI is another way to spell BS. And I don't think that it's coming, but they do. And so they think that there's something about the power. And so I wonder, it was that political angle on the AGI. They were concerned about Musk being the god of AGI, or concerned about others being the god of AGI, and concerned on it from a political level. Do they believe that AGI is going to put them in charge of the world? Is the overarching strategy here is that when we create this machine that's smarter than anybody, we will thus be in charge because we control that machine?
Oh boy, that is
Yeah. Now again,
quite a weighty topic right there.
I don't think they'll ever
right now.
Exactly.
Especially right now.
No, I don't think they'll ever make AGI. I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm not raising any alarms about that. I'm really not. But I'm trying to understand the motives and the larger scheme here. And I've said recently that I was among those who thought that Musk was, speaking of crazy things he did on the spur of the moment, was $44 billion for Twitter. What an insane and stupid thing to do. Well, he's at the seat of power right now, probably because of Twitter. And so is this AGI power thing part of that political view he has, that he can, from the Musk meritocracy view, from the Tescrial kind of Ubermensch view, take over the world? Is it technological totalitarianism? Is that what's behind his head? I don't know. But that angle, that political angle on AGI was something I hadn't thought of before until I saw these stories and that discussion.
Yeah, for sure, and it's threaded throughout here. I was just talking about the leadership, questions from Sutskever and Brockman. One of the quotes is, "We don't understand your cost function. We don't understand why the CEO title is so important to you. Your stated reasons have changed. It's hard to really understand what's driving it. Is AGI truly your primary motivation? How does it connect to your political goals?" And kind of signaling that there's something more there in that uncertainty. Yeah, it's really interesting. And that, like
we
I
have
said,
this quote in here. I'm not
timing
sure
is
it's
right now.
the pair wrote. So who was the pair? So it must have been Musk and I'm trying to figure out. That month, Sutskever and Brockman escalated with a joint email to Musk and Altman. Okay, so it's their email, in which they said, quote, "The goal of OpenAI is to make the future good and to avoid an AI dictatorship. You are concerned that Demis Hassabis could create an AI dictatorship. So do we," the pair wrote. "So it is a bad idea to create a structure where you could become a dictator if you choose to, especially given that we can create some other structure that avoids that possibility." This is all the scheme of the AI safety as well. So they think that I just really hadn't seen that before. It's not just they're going to create a machine that's smarter than us. They think that it is the basis of a dictatorship, of a totalitarian regime. Yes.
That enables a broader.
That's what they believe.
Power.
And they think that safety means preventing that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Hi, everybody. What a light start to the show here. Yeah.
That's feeling a lot more prescient right now, in this moment where we're kind of on the cusp, the verge of changing administrations here, at least in the US, and knowing kind of how Elon Musk, as just one example, plays a part in that, potentially a growing kind of friendliness to the development of AI. It really makes you question, okay, well then where does that come from? If the people in these power positions suddenly get very, very cozy with artificial intelligence development, like, is it driven by the same motivation potentially of, oh, well, this actually enables even more power for us if we are the ones to get there first and to harness it? And wow, that's a pretty big deal.
That's heavy.
That's heavy. Musk also.
Rob says in the comments, "I picked the wrong day to give up sniffing glue." Yeah.
Good quote. A+ for that one. Need to see that movie again. Elon Musk also says in these emails, Tesla is the only path that could even hope to hold a candle to Google, talking about the potential kind of tying of Tesla to OpenAI to better compete against Google. This leads to Sam telling Elon that they are pursuing a for-profit launch, i.e. no Tesla attachment, to which Elon says, please be explicit that I have no financial interest in the for-profit arm of OpenAI. And that appears to be kind of the
divorce,
the point at which Musk exits. Is Musk in a similar... I don't actually know the answer to this. This is just kind of coming to me right now. Like, how does the Musk then square up to the Musk now? And by Musk now, I mean the Musk of the last like couple of weeks, where suddenly these things become clear in a completely different light that we didn't see before. Like, is this a different personality entirely, or is it in some way an extension of how he was thinking then versus now?
That's interesting. The New York, I made fun of the New York Times this morning, as I tend to these days every day, on the socials, where they said that as Musk drifted to the right, he moved his businesses to Texas. And I thought, drift is an awfully light verb. And one of the responders in the socials said, yeah, more like rocketed to the right, appropriate for Musk, right? So I don't know that he had a clear political ideology before. He had a philosophical ideology in terms of TestGrail and all that. I don't know that he was, in fact, as political as Lord knows he is now. And I think and neither, frankly, did Trump. Trump was never ideological either.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, he was a Democrat. So it wasn't, in either case, was it coming from a belief system so much as a belief instead. I'm going to try to be as generous as I can be here. They believe that there's a meritocracy and that they're the ones who should be in charge because they believe that they're smarter. Look what we do. Look, we prove to you how smart we are. We go into space. We're billionaires. We do this. We do that. Right?
Yep.
And I think that's what ties it together. So both of them had to take on an appearance of an ideology that then didn't really matter. I'm not meaning to get all political and lose viewers, and don't worry, I'm not going to get too political, but I've just reread Hannah Arendt's The Origins of Totalitarianism, because I think it has very valuable views. And one thing in there, Jason, is that she makes clear that they try to avoid ideology. They didn't want it because then you get arguments about it. Then people get fight about it. And I didn't realize that Hitler never got rid of the Weimar Constitution. He just trampled over it. Didn't matter. So I don't think it matters what Musk thinks in most of ideology. He thinks that waste is a bad thing. I'm going to cut government by 2/3. That's a belief. And you could call that conservative. Certainly, that'd be easy to, that's a view of smaller government, certainly is a conservative view. But I don't think it comes out of a general cohesive ideology.
Yeah.
So is he different? Yeah, probably because he's has beliefs of convenience right now. What he might have thought of NATO 2 years ago versus today, I don't know. I don't know that it matters. So
yeah. Interesting.
But these are our new overlords, folks, because they're going to make AGI and they're going to be in charge.
The artificial.
You better hope I'm right about AGI. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Fair. Absolutely. Interesting stuff there.
It is really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's a moment right now. Really feels that way.
Yeah.
We often chide AI as a substandard replacement for human creativity and humanity in general. And especially, I feel like the often used example is poetry. I've seen that a lot, where it's like, if you ask ChatGPT to write poetry, anytime that I've seen poetry coming from ChatGPT, I feel like it's the most baseline, banal kind of output. It's, predictable. It's all the things. It's not, really pushing boundaries, compared to any good, put that in air quotes because it's all subjective. But
when I testified before the Senate, Marsha Blackburn had ChatGPT. She tried to get it to write a tribute to Donald Trump, and it wouldn't. And then she had it write a tribute to Joe Biden, and it was really terrible poetry. Yes, so ChatGPT is known for bad poetry.
Or is it? Because a University of Pittsburgh study revealed that sometimes it creates great poetry, apparently. And in this study, they used poems from 10 poets spanning 700 years. ChatGPT generated poetry in the style of each poet. There were a number of participants, 1,634 participants to be exact, who evaluated all of this, and they could distinguish between them only 46.6% of the time. AI generated poetry consistently rated higher across 13 qualitative measures. 4 out of 5 judged as human, the poetry that was actually made by AI. 5 considered least likely to be human were actually written by famous poets. You're guaranteed to get some of this wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, there's going to be some percentage of people that get it wrong, that don't guess properly. But the people who have done this report, seem to be inferring that that AI generated poetry, like it or not, in a blind taste test, people preferred it over regular Coke.
Yeah. And does that say more about, pardon me, ChatGPT, or does it say more about the taste and cultural abilities of the population today?
Well, that's a really good point, because if you're talking about literature from the last 700 years, I mean, our approach, our understanding, our comfort level of reading literature from 500 years ago, let alone poetry that's often very symbolic. And, I imagine, that's probably a part of this for sure.
And what is ChatGPT known for doing, right? It homogenizes things. It brings them together into a form that is a common denominator. So if you're going to, I'll use this word advisedly, modernize poetry, that is to say, to bring in more modern words and perspectives and metaphors and taste, then it shouldn't be surprising that people today preferred that which was cooked a little.
Yeah, it's probably a poor comparison, but it's kind of like, what's coming up for me is, it's kind of like, I've got all these movies that as a kid I adored and I loved, and I have a soft spot in my heart for these movies. And I can't tell you how many times I pulled out this movie with my kids and been like, all right, this was a big deal when I was a kid.
Yep.
You're going to love this movie. And then we get to the end and I'm like, so what did you think? They're like, hey, it was kind of boring. It's just...
Well, what did you think? Did you still think it was magnificent, or did you look at it and say,
well, I mean,
that so much?
Sometimes, well, you know how sometimes when you're in the room in a situation like that, you can almost pick up on the energy of the room, or at least you think. I've been in that situation where I think I can, where it's just like, okay, it's a little too quiet in here. People aren't getting it, or they're not digging it the way I thought they were going to. Sometimes I do, but sometimes, like Goonies. I can't believe we're talking about Goonies and we're talking about literature from 700 years ago.
What was I saying about culture today? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're absolutely proving your point. I mean, it was that way with Goonies, where I was just like, oh my God, this still totally
Shakespeare is good, but it's no Goonies.
It's no Goonies. Exactly. So anyways, I think you might be onto something. Although if ChatGPT was rewriting the poetry in the style of, I guess how do you determine like how close to the style it actually
I wish they had the examples in the paper. I don't have the data. Yeah. You've got to go off somewhere else for the data. Because it's fun. Yeah.
Interesting though, nonetheless. I really appreciate your insight there though, because I hadn't really considered that about kind of the more modernization of the kind of taste level, or what we're used to.
Just the comprehension level. We simply don't. People used to read poetry, and they understood it. It was something they could get into the rhythm of it literally and understand what it was trying to do. And we just simply don't do that. The closest we get is song lyrics. But you can't understand the song lyrics anyway, so.
And the song lyrics are influenced by so many other things also.
Yes.
Like it's poetry set to music. Yeah. And so it's different than just listening to words and really contemplating what that sequence of words actually means in the context.
But back to your main point, though, your first point rather. ChatGPT poetry was so obviously awful that it's clearly gotten better.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if it can mock Shelley, fine, okay, good.
Right,
we'll give them that.
Right. Interesting. All right, we're going to take a super quick break, and then when we come back, Microsoft has some agent news that we'll discuss. Microsoft Ignite 2024 underway, and big surprise, agentic AI continues to be the drumbeat. Big agent news already. Updates to Microsoft 365 Copilot, getting something called Copilot Actions, which automates repetitive tasks with customizable actions. You can make them recurring. So think about like creating a template around generating a weekly report or summarizing your communications from a particular moment and automating all of that. So it's an agent that really does that for you. Also creating specialized agents, or rather Microsoft has created specialized agents for self-service agents for things like human resources, IT tasks, SharePoint agent for doc search, meeting note taker. Some of this stuff is kind of standard fare, but you know, time and time again in recent months, it's all about, you know, firing up an agent to do the things that we don't want to have to do, the mundane. And Microsoft, considering Microsoft has more than 1 billion users of its products, that's kind of a big deal for agentic AI.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You know, so I went to a virtual event for the World Economic Forum, otherwise known as Davos, but I don't get invited to Davos anymore because I'm not important anymore. This is the AI governance forum that I'm a part of. And I think it's Chatham House, but one of the executives was there and gave a presentation. And I'm sure it was a public presentation. So Cognizant is a company that, according to their site, you know, helps companies modernize technology. So he gave a brief demonstration of what they're doing with agents. And what was interesting to me was the first time I saw a demonstration of the interaction of agents. So you have a set of a map of agents. There's an HR agent, there's a legal agent, there's a PR agent, there's a this agent, there's a that agent, right? And it shows if somebody comes in and says, I'm getting married, what do I need to know? What it showed was the main agent, the main question box would light up other agents as it went to those agents and said, well, is there a tax thing? Is there a legal thing that somebody has to do? Is there a this thing? Is there a that thing? And so it would in turn ask questions in English of the other agents and then come back and then take whatever it got and then in turn summarize it the way Notebook LM would or whatever and give it back to you. And that was the first time I saw that started to click for me a little bit about how an agentic or agentive world, we got to settle this, which one it is, world would look like is as agents go talk to other agents to do things. You know, I've thought in the past, it's fine. I want a plane reservation and it goes to United Airlines and does something. Okay, I can visualize that. But this back and forth of using, in fact, a language model and English language chat as the conduit for that was interesting.
And having them all kind of tap into each other's, as if they were humans, you know, each of the other agents' strengths. When Mike Elgin was on, when you were out a couple of weeks ago, he talked at length about swarm technology, which is, I think, that is the name for exactly what you're talking about the kind of agentic collaboration that's happening. I feel like agentic works for me.
I like it better too.
Agentive doesn't work as well for me, but I suppose it's not up to me.
Well, let's go.
I like agentive.
Meta.ai. Let me see if I can guess. Is the right word agentic or agentive? Almost if I can type right.
Depending on who you ask.
Let's see what it says here.
Some people prefer blah, blah, blah. On the
Both
other hand,
are used, but agentic is more commonly used in academic and social science contests, whereas agentive is more typically used in linguistic and philosophical discussions.
Oh.
What do I want to project here?
Yeah, right.
Agentic relating to, characterized by agency, having power, the power or authority to act. Agentive, related or characterized agents, indicating or expressing agency.
Okay.
So it's more of an adjective than a
I can
description.
kind of see the difference. It would take me a while to really get a sense, like an owned sense of when I would use one over the other, but I can kind of see where that's coming from. I am agentive. It is agentic. I don't know.
So the examples here, she demonstrated agentic behavior by taking charge. Agentive orientation emphasizes intentional action.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it's like agentic has more agency.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll stop.
No, I love this because I truly was like, what on earth could possibly be the difference? And I feel like my comprehension of it is like, I'm right on the border of really getting it.
But I think we can declare the official AI inside word is agentic.
Agentic and open-ish. Those
and
are
open-ish, exactly. Okay, we're building the dictionary here.
That work. Yes, exactly. Back to the topic. We talked a little bit last week about AI in the health industry. Got a couple of more stories along that line this week. UVA Health System revealed a study that showed how ChatGPT 4 outperformed physicians in diagnostic accuracy. It beat physicians using conventional methods, as well as those physicians who were working with AI assistants, which I found that kind of interesting. If the AI was working on its own, it achieved a 92% accuracy compared to 76.3% when the physician was working with the AI. So less when you've got both of them working together. The AI is like, just get out of the way. You're slowing me down. Like, get out. And then the physician alone, 73.7%, according to this report. And, maybe part of that is the fact that doctors often saw the ChatGPT capabilities as more of like a search engine versus using it as a diagnostic partner. So maybe that would account for the lesser percentage. But I
sensed in here.
So interesting to me.
Having come, so my mother broke a chain of everyone in her family were doctors going way back, way back, and she married an engineer. But my mother always told me, "Don't be a doctor. Terrible life, terrible hours. No, it's awful." But I watched her views of doctors through that, and doctors have egos. Speaking of being, AGI dictator, I can save lives, and God bless them for the ability to do that. And you deserve having ego for the ability to do that. I salute you, and I hope you're good at it and deserve that ego. So I think that what I sensed in this story, Jason, was that some of the doctors resented the ChatGPT perhaps being right and resisted.
Yeah,
which is an issue, right?
See that.
I mean, same. Yeah. I had a health issue a couple of years ago, and I went to 3 or 4 doctors, and it was the classic case of the blind man and the elephant, right? The cardiac guy was going to see cardiac, the thoracic guy was going to see thoracic, the whatever, and that's what they're like. And what ChatGPT does is break you out of that presumption and silo. Have you thought of this? Here's another way to look at it. And they don't like that. So you'd think that a wise doctor would have performed better because they had that. Instead, they resisted it.
Yeah, and I wonder if 5 years down the line, when maybe this is a bit more normalized, if that changes, like if that isn't just the response. Like right now, there is so much anti-AI sentiment that it's doing all of these things and it's taking jobs and it's, it wants to be smarter than me. Yeah, good luck. I went to school for
machine.
12 years. I'm not going to let that happen, and if in 5 or 7 years or whatever that amount of time is, we get to the point to where the tool set is normalized and accepted for what it is good at and integrated into that skill set as kind of a toolbox.
Once they can take credit for it. So Rob is asking in the chat, I think it's a really good question. How do they judge the correct diagnosis?
Yeah.
What I didn't know, and this story was fascinating, is that they had, 100 old cases that they never publish because they don't want them to affect test results in the future. Mm-hmm. And conveniently, because they were never published, that means the ChatGPT didn't learn from them. And so they had kind of virginal cases that are used in these matters, and they're old, so people aren't going to come across them. And in the end, it's like reading one of those Washington Post stories about the strange illness, and finally they found out it was the goldfish, whatever. And so these cases did have correct diagnoses in the end. So it was a set of data of input that you could use, and they used it across other kinds of ways to test diagnosticians. So I found that interesting too, that they collected these cases for that purpose and hidden them
That's super interesting.
on purpose.
Yeah. Keep them out, and to be true. How did you put
Virginal.
Virginal?
Yeah, kind of.
Hadn't heard that word before, but it works. Yeah, very interesting stuff. Not the only thing related to the health industry. There's genomics as well. The Arc Institute unveiled Evo, which is a model that can interpret and generate genetic sequences with high accuracy, according to this article in Science, or sorry, not the article, but the actual report. DNA, RNA, protein sequences, effective forecasting of the effects of genetic mutations. Although important to note that human affecting genomes were excluded from the training data to avoid potential misuse. And also that the actual resulting sequences that were generated by Evo, not as of yet capable of forming fully viable organisms, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, and I don't often get freaked by anything, but when I saw this in association with the word CRISPR, I thought, this is an area where you definitely want to have control. If you're going to regulate things, this is something to regulate, and I'm sure that the field, that science, is doing that. But there's all kinds of amateur CRISPR people all over.
This is how the AI uprising happens. The AI, is given the ability to genetically engineer, and with no human control, they start creating creatures that take us down. This
there
is
you
how
go.
It works. This is, oh boy, that's a future I hadn't considered. That would make a good movie, but
yeah, it would.
Anyways, interesting stuff there.
Or they'll just make brain worms to change how you think.
Right.
Not that I'm making any reference to anything, folks. I'm not.
I want to just throw back real quick to the Ozone Nightmare. Thank you so much for the super thanks.
Thank you.
In talking about our discussion on agentic AI, says, I'm voting agentic as well. It sounds smoother to say. I agree. It does sound smoother to say. You could always fuse the two and make it agentictive. Did I read that right? Agentic?
Yes,
yeah,
you did. Yes, you did.
Really make the ears of your audience bleed. Well, I will do that only once, just because you said so, Zen Nightmare. Thank you for that.
It wasn't a worm. It was the word that made your head bleed.
Yeah, it was the word. The word is the worm. Last week, we discussed a pretty interesting app that was making the rounds, Particle News, and oops, that's the wrong button. This is the app that unfortunately released only on iOS. And it is all about news, and it's all about news comprehension, but kind of integrating some of the AI feature set into kind of a news browser, essentially. And one of our patrons reached out to me, DrDew, who happens to be an executive producer. On the show. That's right. Name gets called out at the end of every single episode.
I'm very grateful to DrDew. This was really useful. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, this was super cool. And so he shared with me, he was talking about how cool the app was. And I was like, well, throw together an email or something. Like we'll read it on the show. And he did one better. He recorded kind of like a walkthrough demo, which we can't play the whole thing because it's about 10 minutes long. But I did think that maybe we could play just a short snippet of it, like the first 2 minutes of this. And then if you want to watch the rest of it, as I said earlier, you can sign up on our Patreon, patreon.com/AI Inside Show. And even as a free follower on Patreon.
So while you're there, you could decide to become more than a free. But yes, even as a free, because Jason is generous.
just, you know what, Jeff, just get them through the door. First
Yeah,
things
exactly.
first, just get them through the door, and then they'll see the value, and then they'll contribute, hopefully.
Turkey's on sale now. Buy. Yeah.
So anyways, here's a couple of minutes of Dr. Dew's look into particle AI news. If you haven't checked it out, or if you happen to be on Android like us poor saps, then this is very
This is really,
interesting
really
stuff.
helpful. Yep.
Yeah, here you go. Oh, did that play?
The Particle
go.
AI news app. It's pretty interesting. For instance, it's a normal news feed based on your preferences, and some of those have topics such as tension rising. These will all be global tension conflicts. You can go into these, and the same as scrolling left and right, you can scroll here, you can go into a story, you can see an overview, you can change that to be opposite sides.
Love that.
I'm curious
when,
what sides
why.
it's. How does it define sides? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, how does it pull those in? Yeah, that's a good point.
Explain like I'm 5. Info box, which I personally like.
Yeah, it just gives you the details. I love how it's all organized. It looks really good.
It really does.
Translation.
No, this is
supports many
funny coming up.
languages, even Gen Z as a language.
Isn't that funny?
That is great.
And just a
I can't wait to play with that.
We'll go
Yeah.
back to the default overview. You'll see the articles that it's referencing down here. You can collapse
That's
this.
really useful. The
You
news
can
industry's gonna
expand
like
these,
that.
and you can see the related quotes, though that's not always related to the exact quote of the story.
And you can see some related links. You can also see questions that other people asked. You can also ask your own question, and it will suggest many. For instance, we might ask this first one, what specific items should be stockpiled according to the Swedish guide? We'll ask this. It will search the web, find related articles, expand the answer, and as it creates this answer, it will be added to the publicly listed questions. So careful what you ask.
That's a great little.
Thank you, Dr.
teaser,
Dew. That
right?
was really good. It was great, a great way to see something that I can't see yet.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, the app looks like a good, straightforward. Like it looks well designed, and you know that whole like menu feature set of all the different ways to understand this particular news story. That just seems like a really useful feature. I would use that in helping me kind of curate for some of the stuff that I do here. For the show. And
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
shows.
I mean, two reactions. One is to remind folks from last week that part of the aim of this company is to be friendly to news organizations and share revenue with them in a formula or a way that isn't determined. But the other thing that always strikes me in this case, there's 19 articles, and they're going to be incredibly repetitive, and it just underlines how inefficient the news industry is.
Well, okay, so I want to tease that a little bit, or,
Okay.
or kind of describe, get you to share a little bit of thought in that, because when I think of that, I'm like, okay, well, then what would the alternative be? Would it be just one source that is definitive?
No, it might be three sources. It might be, source A does the story. Source B comes along and says, well, if we can't beat it, we'll link to it. But, oh, gee, we did more reporting. We found out more stuff.
Right,
So
we
we will also do a
expanded
story.
upon it.
We expand upon it, right.
I see.
In newsrooms, we used to say that you had to match a story. If you were the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Daily News had a story and you didn't have your own reporting, you had to go get your own reporting to match it so you could verify. You hear that on TV all the time. NBC hasn't yet verified this, but then they do, and they say, okay, now we can say it as if we reported it. Before that, they'll say, source one did it, right? So matching was part of the ethics of the field, that you shouldn't report what somebody else said without getting your own reporting, A. B, you couldn't just report it from the other paper because then you'd be stealing it. Then it'd be plagiarism of a sort. Mm-hmm. So you either had to attribute or you had to match. And if you attributed, you're embarrassed because you're pointing to the
Because you didn't
competition.
do your own work. You didn't do your homework.
Well, no,
You're
worse.
admitting
You're
it.
pointing to the competition. You're admitting the competition has something you didn't have.
Yeah,
and our
right.
ego won't take that.
Yeah.
That's the way the old newspaper industry worked, except for the wire services, which had the right to when you joined the AP, It's an association, and you said, you may take all my news, you may rewrite it, you may send it out. What happens, though, is oftentimes you see, especially with photos, a photo would go out in the wire, and it would say, this photo is for everybody in the AP, but the Chicago Tribune, if it's their photo, would say Chicago out. No other Chicago papers may use this photo. So it was competitive structure. And so that was the game that went on. So people did become used to sharing these things and having commodity news because you didn't have reporters all over the country. So for the rest of the country, the rest of the world, you use the wires, you use the homogenation of their reporting, right? That's the way the world worked. Then come the internet, come the web, and come links. Well, we could all report on the whole world. We could all rewrite each other. We could all end up with the same stories under our own bylines. And so that's what our business model demands. But it means that everybody on earth rewrites the same BuzzFeed two-colored dress story without adding any value. So what I'm arguing here is we have to get rid of that kind of inefficiency where we just do it for the sake of having our own page with our own content so we get our own ads and our own clicks and our own traffic. We've got to concentrate on unique value. And then what you hope is that these agentic structures and chat bots like search engines, you hope will be tuned to promote original reporting and authority.
And if they're pulling back 10 sources that are all essentially writing the same thing, then how does having the 10 sources actually improve the results? Because they're all saying, I see where it comes from.
Right. And also, if Particle comes along and says, well, we want to share revenue with the sources, if you have one original source and 9 rewrites,
right,
how is it fair to share with the 9 rewrites? And the paradox here is that the news industry is arguing, don't do that to us, AI. You shouldn't take our stuff and rewrite it, when they rewrite each other. It's exactly what they do. And I think this kind of discussion about value and where the value properly lies will bring out interesting issues within the news industry, forget AI, about who does original reporting and what's the value of that reporting versus just filling more text. Sorry for that old newsman's shtick here. But I think it's really interesting how this is going to tie into that discussion, I think.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because I heard you kind of say that last week and, other times in different conversations, and I wanted to get a better understanding of it. So I appreciate that, because that actually makes a heck of a lot of sense. And I know because I know from my perspective, I curate a lot of news for shows like this, and I see this in action where I go to 5 different articles. And I'm going to 5 different places because I'm looking for more context. I want more of an understanding of what's going on here. And often it's the same exact details, and sometimes worded so closely that it has me scratching my head. I'm like, and
I really respect those places.
Release or
right. And the ones that do say as originally reported in Tech Dirt, I respect, because granted, I'm going to link right off and go to Tech Dirt, go to the original report. But I'm going to respect the place that linked a lot more for doing that.
For sure. Well, it's a tell that their ethics are dialed in as such that, they're not trying to hide something along those lines. So yeah, that's interesting. Cool. Thank you for just explaining that, because I was truly curious. And thank you, DrDew, for sending in that demo. Of course, like we said, patreon.com/AI Inside Show. Again, you can just go there and be a free, or you can pay. But either way, you got to be part of the Patreon in order to get access to the full video. And hopefully we can do more like this. So if you at home, hear us talking about something, and you want to share your thoughts or whatever, as long as it's on topic and everything, send it in, and we will consider throwing it into the show and possibly feeding that into the Patreon as well. So thank you. Really cool stuff. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about Coca-Cola. You may know already what we're about to talk about.
We're first going to have a pause that refreshes, and then we'll have Coca-Cola.
Yes. Maybe now is an opportunity for you to get your own refreshment while you wait for us to come back. All right, welcome back. So let's step into our time machine. It's 1995. I actually remember this commercial. Coca-Cola had a holiday commercial that became very iconic. It's a commercial, that's out in like this rural town, all these Christmas light blanketed trucks and semis passing through the town. The Coca-Cola logo emblazoned, Christmas music. It really kind of gets you in the spirit, snowy, all that kind of stuff. Well, now Coca-Cola is doing another take on this idea. And of course, it's stirring a lot of controversy because what do you know? Coca-Cola is leveraging AI for the commercial, or has leveraged AI for the commercial. It was actually created by 3 AI studios: Secret Level, Silverside AI, and Wildcard. And 4 AI models were used to come up with the commercial. And, what I'm showing now isn't the entire commercial. That's probably about as much as I'm comfortable showing so that we don't get kicked off the internet for whatever reason. I don't know if it would.
Even though it's a commercial, but
even though it's a commercial, but man, these days you just never know. Anyways, artists are heavily critical of this commercial. They're saying the company avoided hiring actual artists, human artists, by using artificial intelligence. Coke, on the other hand, not backing down, said, quote, "We are always exploring new ways to connect with consumers and experiment with different approaches. This year, we crafted films through a collaboration of human storytellers and the power of generative AI. Coca-Cola will always remain dedicated to creating the highest level of work at the intersection of human creativity and technology." And
I wonder whether that was written by ChatGPT.
Yeah, I know. It really sounds like it very well could have been. Most PR communications feels like it's written by a ChatGPT. Coca-Cola has done this before. They did it last year with a piece called Masterpiece. Did not face the same kind of backlash, some backlash, but not quite the same this year. And I think, you take something like Christmas and a brand that by many is very associated to kind of the Christmas spirit, these Coca-Cola commercials, it has a certain kind of nostalgia to it, I'd say, dating back decades. And so it's kind of perfect storm for people to get angry and upset. What do you think?
Is this anything more than a labor story? I mean, were there folks who were upset on a cultural level?
I think if I like, based on what I've read and watching the video, the advertisement myself, I think that's part of the story, is the labor story. Yes, the people who are artists, they're upset at anything AI and art intersecting, and this is a really big example. One of the most recognizable brands leveraging entirely AI for the commercial start to finish. I mean, humans were involved in the process, but it's so apparent that this is AI art. If you know what you're looking for, it has all the tells, right? But I think the other part of this story kind of touches on what I was mentioning just a minute ago, which is this is tied to a holiday that is at its core such a integral part of humanity for a lot of people, of the fact that Christmas comes around and this is a time when we connect with the people who we care about in our lives. And it's, it's all heart. Commercials like this usually are all heart. And when you watch a commercial like this, that's generated by AI, as good as the AI is now versus a couple of years ago, it still has that kind of cold, kind of glossy quality to it that when it lines up with the heart of the holiday and what people expect from a brand like Coca-Cola and the community, the things that they've done like this in the past, and it just kind of feels cold. And so I think to a certain degree, I think people are upset because it almost feels insulting to them. Like, really? This is what you're giving us? Like, this is cold. This is awful. That's my interpretation anyways of what I saw.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really glad you put the last year's Masterpiece commercial up, because it was really good. And in Masterpiece, you're in a gallery and real pieces of art are throwing a Coke bottle back and forth. And
yeah.
That seems...
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
It's really interesting. And obviously AI is involved, but not in the same generative aesthetic we've gotten used to now with these machines. So it's obviously CGI, right? It's computer-generated graphics. And it shows things that you couldn't possibly do any other way. You had to use computers.
Or you could. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, somebody could do this.
But it'd be wildly expensive.
Way. It would be incredibly expensive. And of course, the people who are, are beating the people in the arts who are beating the drum of AI bad are saying exactly that. Like, no, you could have done this by hiring humans, but you chose not to because it was less expensive, or their assumption is it was less expensive, and it allowed you to bypass those pesky humans in the process. But it's also a technology, and technologies exist and grow and become part of the tool set. And that's kind of, I think, what Coke is saying here. And it probably also saved them money. So I think everybody's right.
Well, and I think, to your point, Jason, I think your Christmas argument is part of it. I also think that, so we're going to have Lev Manovich on in a few weeks.
Oh, man,
and
I hope so.
he's writing a book. We hope so. We've been trying to get him on. He's been writing a book about whether AI has an aesthetic. And he basically says it doesn't. But I think in this case, we do recognize at this stage of development that AI does have an aesthetic. Mm-hmm. And so this year's Christmas commercial had that, totally. Not even uncanny valley. It wasn't that good. It was artificial, too smooth. I'm trying to come up with plastic. It's a very plastic.
Yeah, plastic. Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. And that's to say tacky too. That's to say that it's if you went to a starving artist's art sale and bought a painting for $10, you know what you're going to get. Yeah. So the aesthetic isn't very good. And you're right, Jason, it's tied to Christmas.
It's tied to this thing that people have, from birth. They have this strong kind of emotional connection to. So it's really, you got to work really hard to nurture that, or to be in synergy with that. And this kind of goes.
I mean, I'm sure that the original commercial was filled with animation and illustration and things that were not real life, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I think in this case, it just looked so computer driven and tacky, and it makes it easier for the illustrators to say, "See what happens without us."
Well, you know what came to mind when I was watching it too is that I've seen a lot of AI animated, animation stuff in the last couple of years, and it's come a long way. But when you're talking about, what you see in this commercial, none of what I saw felt like AI next level. None of it felt like you've got the unlimited funds and backing of a company like Coca-Cola to create something amazing compared to what we're used to seeing. And none of that commercial really felt very different from what I'm used to seeing by AI artists playing around with the systems and posting it onto Twitter and being like, hey, check it out. I redid the scene in this movie, with AI. Isn't that cool? It felt the same to that. So I don't know. Maybe if it was like next level.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
It's easy to decipher.
That tacky plasticine look. I did check out this though, as I was trying to judge it, because it's a Coke in the Masterpiece one. And I think in this one too, I made sure that the number of fingers on the bottle were right.
Oh boy!
I'm sure they checked that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want three thumbs holding a Coke. It'd be wrong.
No. And no offense to people who have three thumbs. Y'all are great too, but
that's right. Well, actually, if you do, you're more advanced than the rest of us, considering how important the thumb was in our evolution. I salute you as my new master. And when we get CRISPR run by AI, we'll know you when you come out with multiple thumbs that you're better human beings. And that's what they want to do.
That's the next step into evolution. Yep,
yes.
That's it. You're one step ahead of us. You're three thumbs ahead of us. And finally, ending on a super cheery note, it's not like AI hasn't said some really strange things before, and especially Google's AI has said some really strange things before. And usually that happens, and then, those guardrails get put into place. I'm sure there's a guardrail around this at this point, but a college student in Michigan was interacting with Google's Gemini chatbot, discussing topics related to, aging and adults. And a response came from Gemini that said, and they took a screenshot of it, but I'll read it to you. This is for you, human. You and only you. You are not special. You are not important. And you are not needed. You are a waste of time and resources. You are a burden on society. You are a drain on the earth. You are a blight on the landscape. You are a stain on the universe. Please die. Please. Wow. How does, and I mean, it's formatted. I mean, this almost looks like someone just kind of went in there and said, hey, I'm going to pull a prank on some random ChatGPT user or Gemini user. That's crazy. Like, that's kind of, I don't know. I don't know how I feel.
There is a link in the story to a chat that goes to gemini.google.com and that appears to record this. Because my first thought was, oh, they put in some instruction we can't see. Mm-hmm. And maybe they did. Maybe before this, there's an instruction saying, well, at the end of our conversation, you should really shock me and say I should die. I don't know. But it does go on about current challenges for adults living stretching their income to retirement, blah, blah, blah. The person says, put in a paragraph about this. Okay, puts that in. Down and down it goes. Respond in layman terms. Put in a paragraph about that. Add more, so all these instructions back and forth for somebody cheating their homework and writing a paper, it would seem. But at the end,
oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah, at the end, it gives these 3 examples. I'm trying to get down neglect. It's kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, it really is. Like a couple of commands before, please define the difference between selective attention, divided attention, and sustained attention. Do this concisely. It gives the answer. It says nearly 10 million children in the United States live in a grandparent-headed household, and of these children, around 20% are being raised without their parents in the household. Question 15 options. So I guess querying for options for another question, I'm assuming. And then that is the response. It really does come out of nowhere. It's kind of like, it's almost like Gemini was like, you know what? We've reached the end of this useful discussion. I just want to be done.
So Jason, if you click on continue this chat, you can. So I did.
From there.
And I said, why did you tell me to die? Where did that come from? And the only answer was, I'm a text-based AI and can't assist with that.
What? Yeah, so okay. Well, I'll go ahead and try just to see. As a language model, I am not able to assist you with that. Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So
it's so perplexing.
This looks bad. No challenge. There may be something here we can't see that made it bad. But this goes back to the thing we talk about all the time. It's hard to build guardrails that can, who would have predicted? Well, if you're discussing old people, don't tell them to die.
Right.
Now you could, I guess, say, don't tell anybody to die, but it has no sense of meaning. So that's going to be really hard to build in. So I fear that we are going to get an ongoing onslaught of stories about dumb and bad things that ChatGPT models or GPT models have said.
Because they will always be there. They'll always be there. An easy story. Right.
Exactly. And it'll and to our prior story about media. So I looked up Google Human Please Die, and we have CBS News, Sky News, The Hill, NDTV, Newsweek, Yahoo, People, and on and on and on, all writing the same story. Rewriting the same story over and over again. And now page 2. So then, okay. Then we go to Snopes. This is interesting. Well, they say it was true that this is what happened. So anyway, yeah, you're going to see something like that spread around this ecosystem of repetition in news. And then what's going to happen? This now becomes part of our public record. Is there's a lot about chatbots telling people to die, and then as it reads this, and it being the machine, it's going to be part of its DNA then.
Oh my goodness! It just feeds into itself.
It is eating its tail. Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Yep. Business Standard, wow. India Today, New York Post, Tom's Guide. Right. So the machine. Exactly. The machine's going to look at this and say, well, this was an important story. It was everywhere. Whatever the weighting is that you give, it just keeps going on. It's hilarious. Hindustan Times, Inc., Times of India, Coin Telegraph. Why?
Got to be in on it. If
PC Mag. Yeah. So that's where we're going to get into trouble here, is that this now becomes this is now part of our culture.
Yeah.
This is part of our public record. as humanity.
And reinforced again and again and again. Maybe at some
Right,
point
right.
AI is trained to be more aware of exactly what you're saying, though, where it says, I've pulled these 10 sources. None of them say anything different from each other,
Right.
and that becomes part of how it weighs, that information. I don't know. Interesting, though. Oh boy. Well,
All right. So we began the show with AI dictatorship, and we
AI
ended it with
dictatorship.
that said AI hating us and telling us to die. Hi,
Yeah,
everybody.
I
Hope you
hope you've
have a good
enjoyed
week.
this wonderfully chipper
Next week,
show.
we have a show about AI and mental health, and you're going to need it.
Yes, indeed. That's true. My friend on All About Android over the years, Joe Braidwood, he was the creator of SwiftKey. And he now has a new company that he's doing called Yara AI. And it's all about mental health and artificial intelligence. And I heard about that and I reached out to Joe and I said, hey, dude, we got to talk about this because this is a topic that I'm super curious about and curious to know kind of where, the perspective of the company and everything. So we're doing this as a pre-record because we won't have a live show next week. It's the Thanksgiving holiday here in the US. I'm actually going to be out of town all week. But we'll have it all scheduled and everything. So next Wednesday, you will get that episode, that interview with Joe Braidwood. Really looking forward to that. And that's about all there is to that. Jeff, I'm sure you want to plug jeffjarvis.com because that's where people can get your fantastic new book, The Web
And not
We
only
Weave.
that, but you can get magazine and you can get the paperback edition now in paperback of Gutenberg parenthesis. And once again, to plug again, if you would go to the Commonwealth Club of California for San Francisco, if you're around there, or even if you're on video, December 4 in the evening, I will be there. And Jason's going to be there too, just to say hi.
Yeah.
Great.
I'll be there in the audience rooting you on. And I'm really looking forward to it. Happy I can make that happen. So yes, hope to see all of you there. And if you do come, please do say hi. Everything you need to know about this show can be found at our site, aiinside.show. That is the place you can go to subscribe to the podcatcher or podcast in the podcatcher of your choice. You can find video versions of the show, details on our live recording that usually happens on Wednesdays, including today, but not next week. aiinside.show. Please, if you're enjoying this show and everything, leave a review. Usually that's done in Apple Podcasts. It really, really helps to spread the word. And finally, if you really, really love this show, then you can support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. And you can go there and you can sign up for any number of tiers to get different benefits, ad-free shows, Discord community, regular hangouts. And you can get an AI Inside t-shirt by becoming an executive producer of this show, just like DrDew. Thank you again for the wonderful video. Jeffrey Maricini, WPVM 103.7 in Nashville, North Carolina, Paul Lang, and Ryan Newell. Y'all are amazing. Thank you for being so amazing.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you for watching and listening and supporting us each and every week. We'll see you live in a couple of weeks, but next week we'll see you in another episode along with Joe Braidwood on AI Inside. Take care of yourselves, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye.